Hello, this is Sarah Connolly for the Alcohol Free Lifestyle Podcast. And I'm so excited for our session today to welcome a former client, Ben, who is 45. He owns his own dentist practice with some business partners. He is a father of 3 children, all under the age of 9. And Ben is now how many days alcohol free?
133.
133 days. Now, when Ben joined us, he was convinced that he could not quit. He'd tried, he tells me about 100 times, but I think that might be a slight exaggeration, but he tried many, many times with different methods. And he just convinced himself that he wasn't going to be able to do it. But he came to us with a decision to give it another go for the sake of his kids, his marriage, his career, and his mental health. And so I'm so grateful that he's giving us his time today. And welcome, Ben. It's wonderful to have you.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
So Ben, you're based in Maine, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mid-Coast, Maine. Yep.
Great. And you're juggling life with these young babies and married and businesses. There's a lot going on. Can you tell me a bit about what was happening just in the lead up to making the decision that you were going to have another try at giving up alcohol?
Sure. I was leading a busy life, as you said. Career was going well. Fatherhood was going well. My marriage was going well, but I could see that I was having an issue with alcohol, and that it was slowly getting out of control. I was starting to do things that I had never done before, like hide alcohol. And it wasn't really a problem in my marriage. My wife didn't have any issues with me. I was able to get everything done, but I could feel it inside that I was losing control, and I was embarrassed by it, and I was starting to lie to people about it. And that was the lead up, and that had taken some years to ramp up, and I could see it coming, and it looked dark in the future. So I found you guys.
Yeah, right. So it was looking pretty dark, the future at the time. What was your mental health like, would you say?
I had a lot of anxiety that I tried to overcome with a lot of exercise. I tried to be as disciplined as I could be, but alcohol did not fall into that discipline category. That kept escaping me. I was able to do a lot of things through what I called discipline, trying to maintain that balance. But alcohol did not abide by those rules of discipline that I was trying to keep my life in balance. So
Yeah.
it was just something separate, and so I could see that this was something beyond discipline, beyond my just grit and effort.
Yeah, got it. So in other areas of your life, you could take control, you were disciplined, you could set goals, you could achieve goals, but this was kind of the one thing that just kept eluding you. Would that be fair to say?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally relate to that personally, and I know a lot of people that I've met along the way have that same thing. It's very frustrating to know yourself as somebody that has tenacity and determination and grit and all those things you talk about, but it's this one thing. Yeah. So, Ben, you were convinced that you couldn't quit. what changed and how did it change?
I'd been contemplating the idea for a while of needing some assistance with quitting. I kept going back and forth with that. No, I've got this. I've got the determination. I can do this. I've done other really hard things. And I just need to keep trying harder. And that had been going through my mind for, like I say, probably the past 5 years, really in earnest. And it just been a cycle. Sometimes, I'd spend, a month not drinking, tried to do a 90-day stretch. I made it about 60 days. But I just kept coming back to the same cycle. And after so many times of the cycle just turning and turning and turning, I figured, I need some assistance. But it was really something I wanted to avoid. I really wanted to solve this issue on my own. I didn't want to turn to help, and I didn't know what help looked like. I didn't know what was out there. All I knew was that I didn't want anybody to know, and I just wanted the problem solved.
Yeah. So you had a problem, you tried to fix it a number of different ways, and then you changed your strategy and you did something that you really perhaps didn't want to do, but felt like this is something that I really need to do.
Yeah, that's correct. Before, all I really knew with alcohol, people that had trouble stopping drinking, I should say. I knew about AA, I knew about inpatient services, but I just didn't feel like that was something I needed. I just didn't feel like that was me. I just couldn't believe that I was getting to that point. Everything else in life was great. I have a great family. I had a great upbringing. My parents were really good. They had what I think of as a healthy relationship with alcohol. They drank some, but not to excess. But I started early, and I was a little different from the other people in my family. I just didn't want it to touch my career, and I didn't want it to touch my relationship with my children, and I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I wanted to be private about it. So I didn't know where to turn to. So I don't know if you'll ask about this or not, but I started searching for alternatives to, AA or some type of inpatient, because it just didn't seem like it was a possibility. I just didn't want to do that. I don't know what would have happened, but I just didn't want to do that. So I just started searching podcasts about drinking. I thought, well, maybe at least I'll just start listening to some podcasts, and maybe that'll help. So, and then I heard your lovely voice on a walk.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and what was different about it was that you were talking about the neurophysiology of alcohol, and that really struck me. I was like, this is cool, because I used to smoke a long time ago, and I learned when in college, I learned exactly what cigarette smoke does to your lungs.
Yeah.
And I still remember some phrases. I won't go over, but I remember the permanent damage it's doing. I could think of the cilia, the lining of your lungs, and I could think of what's going on there, and that got me to quit right away. So learning about alcohol and the way that you were talking about it on a podcast was that's what got me interested.
Got it. Yeah. I think that's so important for people to be conscious as well of is that it's not just about this willpower thing that, I think when we're trying to quit in the early days, we think we're somehow flawed because we can't do it with willpower but we don't understand really what's happening. And when we get that understanding, it almost creates a little bit of space and gets that inner critic voice that keeps us going back. You should be able to stop. What's wrong with you? Just creates a little bit of space there for us to go, maybe it's not just about that.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand that. I thought I was just not trying hard enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've actually got goosebumps as you say that, because I believe there are so many people out there that are still stuck in that mindset of there's something wrong with me. I'm not trying hard enough.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe how much I've learned in the last 133 days. It's been the most positive experience I've had in a long time. So I'm just ever grateful for it. And I know we'll get into it more, but yeah, I just so lucky that I found it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on here, but I'm glad I searched. I'm not big on social media. I didn't find Alcohol-Free Lifestyle through social media, just through the podcast. And I just started listening to the podcast. I'd go out on my lunch break. I was like, oh, this one's good. I tried a few of them and they weren't that good. Some of them were about guys with addiction and, oh, I used to do meth and that, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. I felt like I had my life together except for this one thing.
Yeah.
And when I started listening to your podcasts, Coach Sarah and you, and Coach Victoria, excuse me, I just couldn't wait to download them and get out on my lunch break walk. And that started the slow turn, the slow positivity turn. Hey, there's more to learn about here. There's something going on here. Maybe just take a pause on blaming myself for just a second, just see where this goes. And that's what got me. Luckily.
Yeah. I love that you just said that, because I think if I was going to condense this podcast into one message, it would be give yourself a pause, stop blaming yourself, and see if you might learn something different that takes away that blame and shame.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for saying that, Ben. So let's get into that. What did you find that was most empowering? And bearing in mind that probably there are people listening who are either contemplating, quitting alcohol, or maybe are early on in their days. What could you share with them that made the most impact for you?
One thing, for a long time now, I've felt that I wasn't really living exactly the type of life that I wanted to be living, or that I could be living. And I didn't really know why for a long time. But my weekends would come, I would start drinking, I would have, wake up feeling rough, a little foggy. I'd start the week off with anxiety. And it was that cycle. But I thought that was life. But down deep, I thought that there was more to it, and that I had a depth of life that I just wasn't grasping. And I didn't attribute it to alcohol at first, but then that was that, and I love this term, that cognitive dissonance that I started to identify. Life is great. It's always been, excuse me, it's always been great. But I was really struggling. And then I figured out that why I was struggling, and I was blaming myself, and I wasn't being true to myself, and I was lying to myself, and all these qualities that just weren't me. So that's one thing that that's the biggest thing here was learning that it's I knew that I needed to stop blaming myself and stop thinking about it in one-sided way of I just needed to try harder or I needed more discipline. I had tried thinking about this problem for years like that, and I kept coming up with the same result. So I was really happy to find this podcast because it was a new way of thinking about it. I wanted to own the issue, but at the same time, I needed to change the way I was thinking that it wasn't my fault. And I needed to learn how to change the way I think about it as a problem, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Because, when we think about our flaws and where we're deficient and where we're doing everything wrong, as we talk about, often it's this, well, what does that create? That creates stress and anxiety. And when we're stressed and anxious, what we want to do is do the one thing that makes us feel bad in the first place. It's kind of this horrific, vicious cycle that I got caught in. You've been caught in, millions of people. So you gained this awareness that, wow, maybe it's not just that I'm deficient or flawed or not trying hard enough. Where did you go from there, having that realization?
Yeah, so I also, well, let me say, I also had some of the same thoughts that I'm sure a lot of people have, that it's normal, so many people do it, and then also if I stop drinking alcohol, what will people say, what will they think? And these were worries of mine. Am I a failure for, and all these different types of things. But really what I'd come to realize was that alcohol was giving me so much anxiety, day to day, week to week, that I really craved that life free of that anxiety. And at first I was worried about what people would think and going to functions, and but I had come to find out that luckily those fears just completely melted away. And I'm sorry, keep going. I've lost my train of thought.
No. So I would love for you to expand on that. So you were afraid, like most people are afraid of what people will say, if they'll be judged or pressured. And that fear, you said, just kind of melted away. So can you recall the experiences that you had when you first went out into the world alcohol free?
Yeah, absolutely. At first, it was a very anxious decision to become alcohol free, because my wife and I had had good times, but I started to take a pause and think that I am not going to give alcohol the credit for those good times. We had good times because we love each other and we have fun times together. So I started to think of all situations like that. Same with family. I would get together with my brothers, and I think of all the times we'd had drinks and stuff like that and have a great time. But really, I was having a great time because of people and because of connection. So when I took alcohol off the plate, when I made that decision, it was a great weight was lifted off my shoulders, and it was really nice because I made the decision, decided to stick to it. The the physical bonus of not drinking alcohol hadn't really kicked in yet. I was a little worried going out, what people would think. Would they judge me? Because I remember thinking some of those things about people that weren't drinking alcohol, but that's because I was insecure about it. So I started to not really care. It started with some anxiety, and I learned some tips and tricks from Alcohol Free Lifestyle about how to get on at a party, and the early days with that, and that worked great. And then it turned into me not really caring what other people thought, and realizing that they don't really care as much that much either, what I'm drinking. And then it turned into an excitement to go out and connect with people in a way I hadn't connected with people in more than a decade.
You can just see that sense of self come in and be like, yeah, I'm totally happy now with who I am, and I don't have to pretend, I don't have to be something I'm not. And the wonderful realization that we have, which is actually people are too busy worrying about what you think about them than actually worrying about you. Like, people don't care. People really aren't that interested. It's quite freeing, isn't it?
It is. It's nice.
That's amazing. So you've basically gone from I can never quit and I'm weak-willed and all those things that we tell ourselves to moving past all of the common obstacles, like the normalizing of it in society, the fear of guilt, the fear of judgment, and the fear of not being able to be fun and social. What else came up for you over the course of the 90 days?
Yeah. Everything that I wanted out of it came up for me, which I'm happy to say. My life got better in ways I was hoping for, and ways that I didn't even expect. So I do a lot of running, for instance, and I track biometrics and things like that. My sleep got really good and really regular. I used to hate Sundays, and I know a lot of people in the healthcare field don't like Sundays because you're worried about Monday. You had fun on Friday, you had fun on Saturday, and then Sunday, which should be Sunday fun day, was Sunday anxiety day, because now you can't you can't have your drug of choice, your alcohol. You have to get ready. You got that work week coming up. And it was that melted away. I didn't have that anymore, which in and of itself was totally worth it. So just health things got so much better. I had energy. My relationship, which I always thought was great with my kids, got better. My kids started noticing and commenting to me. My 5-year-old, he's like a little sage. He said, "Dad, you haven't yelled at me in a long time." He said that to me not too long ago. And then just the other day, he looked at me, and he's not this lovey-dovey kid. He doesn't say a lot of "I love yous" and things, but he looked at me and said, "I'm really glad you're my dad." And yeah, these types of things are just worth it. It was just unbelievable. So those are just health things. My mind has been more clear because at first, I think with alcohol, you have the ups of drinking a lot, and then you have the downs of not drinking and the anxiety that goes with that. I noticed when I stopped drinking, it felt a little flat at first. The ups and downs weren't really there. But then as my brain got readapted to expressing dopamine for normal things, which is what I was after all along. I wanted to react to the normal things in life more. So now I can hug my daughter and get this big dopamine surge, whereas before I needed a couple of mixed drinks to get that. And even though I loved hugging my daughter before, I swear I get more out of it now. Reading to my children at night, I'm not nodding off, things like that. And also I'm getting up on the weekends early with them. I'm just more calm. It's just, I'm not trying to sell anything here. It's just really been awesome.
Well, I can tell you're not trying to sell anything because there's actually nothing to sell
Yeah.
because it's free. All the stuff that you're talking about is there for the taking. It's just that we get lured into an addictive substance that promises to give us all those things. And, as we wake up, it's like, wow, I actually don't have to pay a corporation that's out to get me hooked on their product loads of money. It's kind of exciting.
I felt like I was really having to try harder and harder as the years went on to try to maintain my life and the quote unquote balance. I just kept telling myself I have to work harder, I have to run further, play hard, work hard, this whole thing. And it was untenable and it was stressful. And I found that I just had to stop trying so much. It was actually a lot easier than I thought. And it's just a lot easier now. Now I just feel much more settled and I wish it on everybody. So
Yeah.
it's really nice.
Yeah, I can tell and I can see it. It's particularly, I think, for those where it is literally that one thing, and it's almost like I see people like these helium balloons and they're just being held down, and then when you take that alcohol out, they just rise, and it's an extraordinary freedom, I think is the word I put to it.
Yeah, it's almost like it's unreal every day. And when I still feel a little pinch of gratitude every day that I wake up and I feel good and I got a good night's sleep and I don't have any regrets from the day before. And I used to have regrets all the time, and now I'm just don't have regrets every day, and it's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, and to hear your son say, "I'm so glad you're my dad," like that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. So we've talked about the decision. We've talked about, just to highlight the fact that there was no kind of stereotypical rock bottom moment, but just this dis-ease with how you were living your life. You made a decision, you took action, you got educated, you started to see some very tangible benefits, mental health, relationships with your kids. Tell me any other areas that you've started to see. I mean, your fitness, you've talked about. Where else have you seen improvements? Your marriage, your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I am a better listener with my wife, try to be more calm, but also now I have more space, more time to read, for instance. On the weekends, I didn't read much because obvious reasons. I couldn't read while I was drinking. So I have those. Work is just much more enjoyable. Work is kind of what it is. But when you take the stress out of it, I think you just do much better, and you feel like you can care for people for that reason, to care for them, and not just to get through the day, not just to get done with that appointment, but just to slow down and connect with people. And it's something that I hadn't really experienced very much in depth. And that's hugely rewarding, because before, there's always that, well, there was always that for me, that did I make the right decision? Was this the right career? I don't know. It's so stressful. And that has changed dramatically in the last 100 days or so to, yeah, this is great. I get to help people. It's wonderful. The stress has gone way down, which is necessary for a lot of people. And there are a lot of healthcare people in the alcohol-free lifestyle, I think, for a good reason. And I think it's a good way to have your career be reborn. Yeah, I would run races before in the past years, and drink the night before. I'd be dehydrated, and it would be rough on myself. But I had this mentality of you're gonna finish no matter what, no matter what you're how you feel. And that's not a good way to have a hobby, or just doesn't make any sense. And now I just do it because I like to do it. And you know not so much stress. I just feel good about it. I do it because I want to do it, and it feels good. I like to run. um yeah, marriage. Yeah, every, if you take stress out of a situation, it just gets better.
Bottom line, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, you take the stressor out of the situation, and the stress is the booze.
Yeah,
Slowly things improve on every level.
it was amazing how much stress alcohol put into life. And I felt for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of people do, that it's what you do to de-stress.
Yeah.
And it's that momentary de-stress, but it's a it's a I call it a cheap but very expensive dopamine hit. It's cheap because it's quick. It's You don't work for it, but it's expensive in the long run because it's going to screw up the way you get your dopamine naturally. So, uh, it's I'd say beware of any dopamine that you don't have to work for, somewhat. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you've just said that. I again need to highlight for the listeners that, this, just be careful of if it seems too good to be true, it usually is. But at the same time, it's that you've also talked about the appreciation of the natural dopamine high, if you like, from cuddling your children. And it's not dopamine, there's lots of other neurotransmitters, but dopamine's the one that we kind of latch onto in this process. But as we become more healed psychologically and physically, hugging our dog or our kids, or like you say, connecting with a patient at a deeper level, provides all of these extraordinary neurotransmitters that are actually there for a reason, so that we can enjoy our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, life has become more rich because I'm
Yes.
connecting with those moments more now. And
Yes.
chronic alcohol use would numb those moments out.
Yes. That's it. Sorry, that was what I wanted to highlight that you said, was that it used to, at the beginning, it's kind of dull, right? Because you're taking away the big hit.
Yeah.
But you've described in just 116 days, 116, did you say?
133. I mean, who's counting?
133. Ah, there we go. 133 days. It's gone from that to of what you said, which I love, is I'm giving credit to life now, not to alcohol, for those feelings. Amazing.
Yeah. Feels good, and it keeps getting better. For a while, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Somebody used that term. I love that term. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for things to kind of turn around. But those fears just start to slowly melt away, and is no other shoe to drop. It's just, this is life, and it's just a lot easier this way, and it's a lot more enjoyable this way. And before, I didn't see through to the other side. I didn't think that that was the case. I thought, well, everybody drinks to have fun, you know. My family did on vacations and things, and we get together and that's what you do. How could I ever give that up? We had great times, but for one thing, everybody's different, and two, we had great times being together, and the times are even getting better and better now, whereas before you could only get so good, and then things got sloppy, and then you'd have regrets the next day. So now you get all of it, and then you get a good night's sleep and you get to wake up. It's everything I could have wished for. It really is. And I'm just really grateful every day. I really am.
It's wonderful. It's so wonderful to hear, Ben. So I would like to ask you something. I wrote it down here, which was you used to hate Sundays, and you said had that Sunday anxiety day. Tell me what a Sunday's like now for you.
Oh, Sundays. Yeah. I make pancakes on Sunday mornings, and that's a big thing right now. Chocolate chip pancakes. It's a big deal. And I love it. And the kids love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, details. I mean, you know, coffee. Love a good cup of coffee in the morning. I love making breakfast for the kids. It's really enjoyable. I have a wood stove right here that I like to get a little fire going. You know, go outside in the mornings. Now it's starting to get warm here, and let the chickens out. And oh gosh, it's just good. These little things are really enjoyable, and it's just I don't want to say it's just another day, but it is. It's another full weekend day that I can enjoy, because I'm not cursing that I can't use, you know, that I can't drink, you know. On Saturday, you wake up, I'm like, all right, it's Saturday. Yay. You know why? I'm glad it's because I got Saturday night to look forward to, you know. But now it's just, and then Sunday, I'm like, you know, Sunday sucks because, you know, I can't drink tonight. And then tomorrow it's going to be stressful. But now I don't have that. It's just, it's another weekend day. It's the full day. I do everything I did on Saturday now, you know. And I have the same type of night that I had on Saturday, and it was awesome. Everything's good, you know. So it's like I got a weekend day out of it, you know.
A whole day, right? A
Yeah.
whole day, whole extra day.
Well, and my stress and anxiety previously on Sundays would manifest. You know, I wasn't I wasn't very cool with the kids, or half the time I would sleep in. You know, my wife and I would alternate. You know, and I might sleep till 10 or something crazy like that. Who does that with 3 little kids? And then, you know, it feels like half the day's gone. So it's just a lot more life. It's a lot more time, and just such a better way of spending time. I mean, magnitude's better way of spending my life. And, you know, we've talked about what's going to matter when you're on your deathbed. And I think it's a healthy thing and a good thing to think about that, to think about your own death, not in a macabre sense, but, you know, to look back at what you've accomplished and what you've done. And I think relationships are going to be essentially the main thing. What kind of life you've led, you know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you do, I don't think, you know, it matters how you do it. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
yeah.
And I'm certain that your young man will be saying that he's happy you were his dad up until that day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. So Ben, before we finish up, just one last question, and you may not have anything else to say, but if you do you have anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we finish today?
Yeah, I think it was. I was thinking of back to when I felt really trapped. I felt trapped because I thought stopping drinking or getting help with that was too much of a step, and I was feeling trapped. And I just hope that people will at least start listening to some of your podcasts. Maybe check this program out. I'm sure there's other great programs out there too. Just find the one that works the best for you. Again, like I said before, I really like the science behind it, and that's what's really helped me a lot. But I couldn't be more grateful for just looking into it. It was a bit of a leap of faith for me. But gosh, I keep using the word grateful. That has a big part of in this program, but I'm just utterly grateful that I started listening to to the podcasts and took that leap. I think anybody can take some time off of alcohol, but for me, it started with that feeling of I need to take some time off of alcohol. To alcohol just doesn't work for me, and realizing that that's okay, because it some people can drink occasionally and that's fine. Some people are neurotransmitters maybe just get a little too excited, and I think people are just built differently, and just to realize that it's okay. And this program helped me to realize how that works, and it also helped me to get excited about living life alcohol free, and not that, oh geez, I gotta stop or anything like that. It changed for me to I gotta stop to I get to stop, and I get to live this life alcohol free, and it's wonderful, and it's actually very exciting, and I'm excited every day to live like this. And I'm not quote unquote sober, and I don't have a quote unquote disease. I'm just a normal human being who drinks normal human being things. And yeah, I'm just trying to live life and keep my body running as well as I can. And it's really awesome.
Well, Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And I think that now you're going to be part of the podcasts that the next person might listen to and have their journey start in the same way that you did. So I want to thank you for giving us your time, your wisdom, and the passion that I can hear in your voice, and excitement about your future, not just for yourself, but for your family. And it's wonderful to see. And I know that you worked really, really hard for this. So I want to acknowledge you, and I want to thank you for being so generous with your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you, Ben.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I'm very grateful for alcohol-free lifestyle, and thanks so much for asking me.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found something in Ben's story today that at least sparked some curiosity, or maybe some hope, that there is something so much more beautiful on the other side of alcohol. Thanks for listening. This is Sarah Connolly, and I'll see you again soon.